Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you're there? Or maybe you found yourself staring at your laptop, unable to remember the point of that email you were about to send. Now imagine that happening more frequently, so often that it starts to feel like your brain is playing tricks on you. Welcome to the post-pandemic reality for millions of people. But here's the question. Did COVID actually scramble our brains? Or is there something deeper going on here? Today, we're diving into a topic that affects all of us, whether we realize it or not. We're talking about brain fog, cognitive decline, and how the pandemic may have altered our minds in ways we're only just beginning to understand. But don't worry, this isn't just a story of doom and gloom. By the end of this episode, we'll uncover how we can reclaim our mental sharpness and even turn this crisis into an opportunity for growth. Let's start with Mark Chiverton, a 33-year-old from the UK who started noticing something strange. He was making silly mistakes, mixing up words in emails, forgetting basic terms while talking to his wife. At first, he thought it was just aging or maybe stress. But then it hit him. Could this be linked to COVID-19? Mark isn't alone. In fact, millions of people around the world have reported similar experiences, mental slips that seem to come out of nowhere. Some call it brain fog. Others describe it as feeling like they've lost a step mentally. And while these issues might seem minor at first, they can add up. Imagine living in a constant state of mental haze. Now, let's think about storytelling for a moment. What makes a great protagonist? It's someone who faces challenges but grows stronger because of them, right? Think about Frodo in The Lord of the Rings or Katniss Everdeen in The Hunger Games. Both characters are thrown into situations where their minds are pushed to their limits, yet they emerge transformed. The pandemic has been our own version of that story, a global event that has tested our mental resilience in ways we never expected. But unlike Frodo or Katniss, many of us are still stuck in the middle of this journey, trying to find our way out of the fog. So what's really going on here? Is this just stress? Or did COVID-19 actually change our brains? Here's where things get interesting, and maybe a little scary. Studies have shown that the virus responsible for COVID-19 doesn't just affect our lungs. It can also impact our brains. Researchers have found evidence of persistent inflammation and even brain shrinkage in people who've had COVID-19. And while some people recover fully, others are left with lingering cognitive issues. In fact, one study found that people who had recovered from COVID-19 performed worse on cognitive tests than those who hadn't had the virus, equivalent to losing about 3 IQ points. Now, 3 points might not sound like much, but when you think about how small changes can accumulate over time, well, it starts to make sense why so many people are feeling mentally off. But here's where storytelling comes back into play. Remember how every great hero faces a moment where they feel like they've lost everything? That's where we are right now. The moment of doubt before the breakthrough. But here's the thing. It's not just those who caught COVID-19 who are experiencing these mental shifts. Even those who never got sick have felt the impact. Researchers have found that living through such an unprecedented global event, the isolation, the fear, the uncertainty, took its toll on all of us. One study even found that teenagers' brains aged faster during the pandemic due to stress and trauma. A few years spent in lockdown could be equivalent to 4 extra years of brain aging for some kids. And if you think about it, this makes sense from a narrative perspective too. Trauma leaves scars, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. Think about Tony Stark in Iron Man 3 grappling with PTSD after the Battle of New York. His mind is fractured by what he's been through, but ultimately he finds a way to rebuild himself stronger than before. We're seeing something similar happen on a global scale right now. The pandemic was traumatic for everyone in different ways, and trauma has lasting effects on how we think and process information. But here's where things get hopeful. and where we start thinking about how we can write our own comeback story. Experts say that while some changes caused by COVID-19 might be permanent, many are reversible with the right strategies. Just like any hero who learns new skills or discovers hidden strengths during their journey, we too can rebuild our cognitive abilities. So what does that look like? First off, social interaction is key. After years spent isolated from friends and family, getting back into social environments can help stimulate parts of our brains that were underused during lockdowns. Physical exercise also plays a huge role in brain health. It boosts blood flow to the brain and helps reduce inflammation. And let's not forget mental exercises. Things like puzzles, reading new books, or learning new skills can all help sharpen your mind again. Perhaps most importantly, it's about mindset. Those who recover best from trauma often experience what psychologists call post-traumatic growth. Just like Frodo returning home stronger after destroying the One Ring, or Tony Stark realizing he doesn't need his suit to be Iron Man, we too can emerge from this pandemic stronger than before. So did the pandemic break our brains? In some ways, yes. But here's what I want you to take away from today. We are not powerless in this story. Like every great protagonist facing adversity, we have choices to make about how we respond. Will we let this fog consume us, or will we take action and reclaim control over our minds? I encourage you to start small. Reach out to someone you haven't spoken with in a while. Take a walk outside. Pick up that book you've been meaning to read but haven't gotten around to yet. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. We're all navigating this post-pandemic world together. And together, we can write an ending where we come out stronger than ever before. Until my next Brain Teaser episode drops, be well, do extraordinary things, and live a story-charmed life. This series relies on listener support. Please help me keep the great content flowing by clicking the Support the Show link in the episode description and to see a list of additional services and products. You can also subscribe to the Story Charmed Life newsletter or enroll in my online screenwriting course via the links I provided.